Hey there, everyone. I am Kate Volman, and I am so excited because I am joined by Michael O'Neill. He is the founder and host of the SoloPreneur Hour podcast. Michael, you're so awesome.
All right, interview over.
And
no
done.
Go but down at this point.
No, thank you
Just
so much.
now.
Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm glad to have been asked. So thank you for having me.
Yes. So for those of you that don't know Michael, he's pretty awesome. And his podcast is all about, he brings on really cool people, really different, exciting guests. And one of the things I love so much about your podcast is you're so casual and you're so you really want your audience to learn great tips to help move them forward. So your audience calls themselves proudly unemployable.
True.
You started the podcast in August of 2016, and already you've had, what, over 6 million downloads?
2013. So I started in 2013.
Oh, sorry, yes.
And almost 8 million now. We're up to almost 8 million.
That is so...
thing.
I know, you have this like whole community, and I don't even remember where it is that I found you or met you somewhere online, but you were just talking about how appreciative you were of all of this, all of what you've created in the past couple years. It's just been so incredible.
Yeah, I don't remember either. We've connected, I think, mostly recently, and I think that's how it works in the social media world. And this is probably a good beginning lesson, which is you put enough content out there, you just continue to keep. I don't want to keep saying like adding value, because I don't think it's all about value all the time. I think if you put yourself out there, and whoever you hope, one hopes that themselves is enough, and if you have this intention of sharing maybe what you've accomplished and some of the things that you've learned from as you move down this timeline, you keep crossing paths with people, and eventually you're like, oh, didn't I, like I said to you, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I saw you in an exercise video, didn't I? So somehow we cross paths and we establish rapport, and from that rapport, people like people that are like themselves, and they work with people they like. So then eventually, maybe they come on and join your tribe or your community or whatever. So it's been cool.
Awesome. Well, this month we had just been talking about on the garage how this month the theme is resolve to start. So it's really around starting a business or an endeavor that people have been really just itching to do, or it's that idea that they have that they just can't stop thinking about. They just keeps them up at night. And so when I was talking to my editor, I was like, Michael O'Neill, what's up?
Dude, you got to talk to them. Totally.
Because you help so many people with that starting of a project or starting of a business. Yeah. So I kind of wanted to start there. You're talking to all these different people. They so love your community, and they love your guests, and they love learning. So for somebody that's watching, that's thinking, I have this business idea, or just endeavor, maybe they just want to start a blog or just start doing some kind of, even like their passion project, whatever it is. What advice do you typically share with them, like right off the bat?
Well, so I'm in the middle of doing it again myself. I have another little endeavor that I'm doing.
Ooh.
So the biggest issue that I see now, this is 3 years of coaching on it, like 3 pretty solid years of coaching on this exact subject, is patience, and that people don't really have the patience to put it this way. They'll start out by going, how do I monetize this?
Yeah.
And you go, oh, pump the brakes. The part where you don't have any content out there, you don't have an audience paying attention to that content, you can't really think about how to monetize it until those things happen first. And the best way to go into this thing is, I really love this, so maybe someday I can monetize it. Otherwise, get a job, because you can't. There's no way to guarantee that what you're about to do is going to go anywhere. And I will give you an example of that. I was going to say a perfect example, which sounded a little ego-y. So I'll give you an example. You can decide if it's any good at all. I am a audio nerd. So over the last couple of years, I've made acquaintances with a couple of dudes that are pure, unadulterated audiophiles. And what that audiophile thing means is that when somebody recorded an album, literally probably an album back in the day, what an audiophile does is they try to build like a stereo system in their house that allows them to accurately reproduce that sound that they got in the studio, right? So when we're in this age of MP3, there's people that have actually never heard the music that they're a big fan of. Meaning, like, they've only heard MP3s of their favorite artists. They've never actually heard, like the vinyl or even the CD or the unadulterated audio file. That's FILE. And I've like completely been down the rabbit hole of this for the last couple of years. And I love it. And it's super fun to nerd out and try different speakers and amps and things like that. But I'm a beginner at it, and you go and walk into one of these stereo stores and you say, wait, did you just say that this cable that's 3 feet long is $1,200 to connect my CD player to my amplifier? Are you crazy? But that's exactly what they're saying. And then they'll go, and here's why. So it's a crazy little spot, but as someone who's just learning it, but I really love it. So I thought, I went to one of these shows that they have they have them in hotels. So all the suites in the hotel have these different companies that set up these fancy stereo systems, and you go listen to them and you go, I like this, I like this, I like this. I was driving back from Newport, which is 2 hours north of here in San Diego. And I was like, I'm gonna go on iTunes and listen to a show with other audiophile nerds and like listen to them nerding out. I'm like, I really want to do that. Doesn't exist. It literally doesn't exist on iTunes. I was like, how can that be? This was earlier this year. And I said, I want to be that guy then. I see white space. And I like, here's what I know about the industry is they're super opinionated and they spend tons of money and they love to talk about the subject. So I'm like, all right, those three things bode really well for maybe monetizing a podcast. But if not, I bet you I could just get a ton of free gear sent to me and get to test it out and have tons of fun with it. That's what I'm thinking. So on the way back, I was speaking at a conference and I was flying to Denver and I said, I need a brand. So I came up with a brand called Beginner Audiophile. I created a business card around it, which looks like that.
Check it out.
And I said, I'm going to do this. So I started an Instagram account. I took that Instagram account, did a landing page with lead pages, bought my domain name on GoDaddy, and I'm not just plugging that, but that's what I really did. I can show you a screenshot right now. I sent the lead pages landing, like redirected the GoDaddy domain name to my lead pages page, my Instagram account to that page as well, so then people can opt in. And now I have like, not a ton, but I have, I think 400 followers on the Instagram account, 150 people on my mailing list, and we've recorded 2 episodes so far that aren't out yet. But I've gotten, at this point, thousands of dollars of free gear sent to me. Some to review, some I have to send back, but some I'll probably get to keep or use as a like promotion or something I can grow my Instagram account with. That's how you do this. That's how you start a new thing, which is like, if this doesn't make a dime, I'm having a blast. And my instinct tells me that if I get a few listeners and this really tiny micro niche that spends a ton of money, I'll bet you I could have a couple of conversations and with relationships that I've built to maybe get a title sponsor for the podcast. So I'm about to go to CES. I've now been to one main conference as Beginner Audiophile, where I shook a lot of hands of marketing directors and said, I want to review your stuff. And then I'm about to go to CES in Vegas and do the same. So I will concurrently be looking for sponsors for the SoloPreneur Hour, but also for people that want to send me review copies of their gear and start planting the seeds for, hey, we don't have a title sponsor yet. So it could very well be that someone says, look, I'll give you $1,000 a month for the first 3 months of your show to say, whatever, promote our amplifiers or whatever. And be like, fine, I'd be happy to do that. But that's how a side gig is created. You know? That's how it needs to be done. So within everything I just said, there's 15 years of expertise that I have. And all those things. Yep.
I was just going to say, for somebody watching, I mean, I'm listening to you, I'm like, yep, that makes sense. Yep, do it, try it, do it. But there's a lot of people that are listening to you thinking, I don't even know what he just said. Like, weed pages, what? Like they don't know. And so for those people, because I agree, I mean, you have to, it's kind of like that whole business validation. You validate your business, some kind of a business model to see if there's an audience out there for it, and just kind of get started with all these little pieces. But for those that are watching that don't have that expertise that you do, what do you say to them? Yeah, exactly. Where do you start with that?
So here's the thing. People have expertise in something. So one of the drills I like to bring my coaching students through is what I call the breakup drill. So in 2003, I got dumped by this girl, Jennifer. And
so
I was
sad.
totally heartbroken about it. And I could, weirdly, you guys could be sisters. I'm not even joking, but you guys have similar features. Anyway.
I didn't want to tell you, but surprise.
So I was very heartbroken about it, and someone gave me this drill to do to get over the broken heart, which was you take a piece of paper, you make a vertical line down the middle. One side you write pros, the other side you write cons. And on the one side, you write all the pros of your relationship and things you loved, and the other things you write the cons. And then, and here's the key part, you cross out anything you can get in any relationship. You're like, oh, I used to love like cuddling on the couch with Netflix, you know? You're like, okay, well, you can do that with any human. So let's bring that back, like that you can cross that one off. But what you're left with is what you're allowed to mourn. So you're like, oh, I really like, Jewish one-armed skydivers from Arizona. That was what they were. I'm like, all right, that's going to be a tough, you could probably mourn that. It's going to be a tough one to get again. Like, it's going to be a tough one. So I do a similar drill. I've adapted that to, okay, how do I know what to do for my little side gig? So first, you take your hobbies, just the things you just love to do. In my case, I love the audio stuff. I love vintage. I have a vintage Porsche that I restored. I can do anything around those two industries, whether it's making T-shirts or making a podcast or making an iPhone app, and I could talk about those things until I bore someone off their stool. I just love that. So I would love to be able to figure something out in that realm first. But then take everything you know how to do as a human. And that includes, I know how to change a flat tire on my car. I've raised a couple of great kids. I know Excel spreadsheets. I know whatever it is, right? And just kind of go through your internal Rolodex. You're like, all right, I've raised 2 kids. The girl's not on the pole. The guy's not in jail. I've done a good job. I reared my children well, right? So cross off anything that kind of anybody can do in that thing. And what you're left with are some of the unique skills that you have. Then you go, all right, of those things that are left, are any of them in an industry that is willing to spend money or is marketable in some way? Is there a wave right now in society where, like, okay, I know a lot about Facebook ads. All right, well, it happens. Or I knew a lot about like Google ads. Can I take my knowledge of Google ads and port it to Facebook ads? Mm-hmm. I just met a woman last week. I was speaking at Nick Unsworth's Life on Fire event, and she was a paralegal. She did tons of research. She was a professor of research of something or another, and just really was someone who really dug into the research world. I said, I'll tell you what, I was sitting with Michael Stelzner from Social Media Examiner. He opened up Google Analytics, and I was like, that is a completely and utterly foreign language to me. I go, I don't know anybody that makes Google Analytics easy for entrepreneurs. Why don't you be that person? She was like, wow. And I've seen her now a month later, and she was like, I've taken this class, I'm doing this, I'm starting this new. I mean, she has taken that and run with it because that was a need. It matched her skill set of research and like interpolating, either way, data and making it user-friendly. So I'm like, that is the perfect way to take the thing you know and turn it into a solopreneur type business. So that's kind of what we have to do is internally look at those things and then connect them, hopefully, to industries that we want to be in. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense. And I'm going to add too, I think as I'm listening to you talk, I think it's also helpful for people to reach out to their friends, their colleagues, to other entrepreneurs, because I find that so often, because it's the natural thing in you that you're so good at, you forget that it's a skill. You forget how marketable it is.
And how valuable it is.
Yes.
It's really easy to not charge or be like, oh, why would anybody pay for this? I'm like, dude, because you've been doing it for 15 years. You're really good at it.
Yeah.
You know, it was hard for me. I had a lot of people that asked me, part of what I try to do on the show is really give the listener a point of view, like a fly on the wall perspective of the conversation. I want them to really feel like they're sitting in on a real, kind of like this one, you know, just feels like they're on a real conversation. And that is not an easy thing to accomplish for most podcasters. Most are much more, you know, structured. And it doesn't take long if you're on somebody else's show to go, oh, they're not there yet. So I had so many people like, how do I interview people better? And I'm like, wow, you're asking me how to be a better conversationalist and how to connect disparate dots to make a narrative that's engaging and interesting. That's not an easy thing to do. But after literally months of trying to figure out how to do it, I did it. I created a course just for that. But it took a long time to figure out how to do that. So you might have a skill that you're good at, but it might be a challenge to figure out how to articulate it to new people. But that's just part of the drill.
Yeah, cool. And you do definitely do that, because when I'm listening to your podcast, it's just so, I feel like I want to chime in sometimes. I'm like, oh, right, I'm not there. I'm not.
No, you didn't do that. Yeah.
So you have this great audience. I know they're really engaging. I love your Friday coaching that you do. Those are some of my favorite podcasts. And I want to talk about what are some of the kind of hurdles or challenges, or do you get like the most frequently asked questions, like from someone who from people from your audience that emails you? Like, what are those things? I'm so curious.
So first, identifying the thing to do, which we've covered. That's really that's a major one. The patience one is the second most. Those two things I would say, make up a huge majority of people's issues. Are like, what do I know that people want to know? Those kinds of things. The third are generally, what horse do I back? Like, who do I follow? Everyone has all these different ideas and things like that. And my best advice in that world is, if someone's putting out content that you like, so if you listen to their podcast and you like what they're doing and how they deliver, I think they're a good place to go. Or someone who's, you know, they've heard this before, but someone who's doing something that or has a life that you want to have. The caveat to this is understanding why they're successful. And I think if someone follows somebody, like with podcasting, you know, there's a lot of podcasters out there, but a lot of them model certain podcasters, and they think, well, because that's their format, that's why they became successful. And it's like, no. It's because of the combination of skills that person has. That's why they became successful. So I think that people have to really embrace what they're really good at and shine a light on those, versus I'm going to do Kate's, you know, format, and I'm going to start going to the gym and be like, hey, what's up? Here's my booty shorts or whatever.
That's totally what I do, Michael.
Did I disparage you enough with one sentence? Was that a sexist enough version? Okay, great.
Yeah, so this is done. Click.
Yeah, that's how this is done, right? Exactly. So, but the point of that is that if people have the wrong idea about why you're successful, they'll just go, oh yeah, I'm going to do this same thing, and you're like, dude, that is so far away from the intention and really the delivery mechanism of why my show works, right? And so I think we tend to back the wrong horse in that way, instead of going, all right, what in the case of podcasting, what would my ideal show be like? How long would I want to talk? How many times a week should it be? And what do I want the time in between, you know, record and stop to look like? And I think that's the challenge for people. There's no wrong way.
Right.
There's no wrong way. So, and the other thing I would say is, you know, I see a lot of people on Snapchat, or I see a lot of people doing live stream, or you do whatever platform that matches your skill set. You know, I'm good on a microphone. I'm okay on video, but I'm really good on a microphone. I don't blog, you know, like I don't sit and write because I'm way colossally too ADD for that. And if I did, it would have to be me dictating it and somebody transcribing it and putting that into place. But I don't have a team like that does that stuff for me. I think maybe someday, if I am really into it, that I'll start, doing that. But I don't feel a need to just crank out and create content every 3 seconds. I feel like I do enough of that on the show that I don't feel like I want to duplicate. I tried Snapchat for a few months. It was fun, but eventually I was kind of like, feels like work to me, and I don't want to do that anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but it's a good point that you tried it, and I like that you say kind of map out what it is that you want to see, and then kind of take different pieces of what you've seen out there that you also like and see how you can incorporate that. I like that idea of just kind of not just trying to be a cookie cutter of somebody else just because they're doing it right.
Yeah. Well, also it's worth noting when you're talking about picking a platform, and here's the platforms I'm talking about. I'm talking about general social media, which would be like Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, live streaming, book writing. That's a platform. Everyone's like cranking out Kindle books and things like that. Speaking, or live workshops, and you could make the argument for like local TV and those kinds of things. So, and blogging. So that's the written blogging version. You have to first figure out. Yeah, this is what blogging looks like. If you guys don't know. So, if you have to decide what first matches your own personality the best, but also what the best medium is for the industry you're going in. So, example, one of the guys I coach has a brand called Pastry Elite. He's a pastry chef. This is a great example of how to take the thing and turn it into something, right? How to build an audience. So he's a pastry chef, and he makes these beautiful. He's great at it. But he created a Instagram account called Pastry Elite. This was about a year ago. And let me tell you what Pastry Elite has these days. I'll have a quick little look. In 1 year, he's built Pastry Elite to, let's have a look, everybody, to, the last I checked was 106,000 followers.
Wow.
In less than a year. And this is on Instagram. And the reason why is because pastries are beautiful. Like when they're really well done, it's art. I mean, truly. And the Instagram account is gorgeous to look at. And what he does is he just grabs other people's content. He says, tag me when you have a beautiful shot. And he just has all of these great pastry shots. I have another buddy, and this is for the ladies, who started an account called Men's Yoga. And it's MENS_yoga. And he now has, and he just started this year in 2016, he has almost 83,000 followers. And all he does is have pictures. I don't know if you guys can see this on the camera, but it's just a bunch of hot dudes doing yoga
there
poses.
You go.
And I've watched him, he does about 1 post per day. And he says to people, hey, just tag me in your yoga poses. He scrolls through the people that have tagged him, picks one, reposts it, and has a bunch of hashtags that he puts in his notes and just sticks them right on. It takes him like 20 seconds to provide the content for this. And in fact, I used this model for my beginner audiophile one. It was just like, he gets content from other people, takes 2 seconds to post it. He has little hashtags that send people to a link, which sends people to a landing page, which gets people on his emailing list. He has like 15,000 people on his list and 83,000 followers in a year, and it takes him 20 seconds a day. Now, the next question is, well, how does he monetize it? Well, he doesn't yet, but you can decide when you want to shoot your gun, but it's nice to have it loaded, right?
Yeah.
It's like this. He can do with this audience. He can do anything he wants with it now. He's got 83,000 captive audience members. When he does a new post, he gets, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000 likes. So he's got a huge engagement on that. And he can start selling yoga stuff or
for sure,
making live programs or do whatever he wants with a huge audience like that. And that's kind of the the cool part.
So
but it lends itself to the visuals. What the whole point of my rant right there.
Yeah.
So if you're a writer, you blog or you use medium.com. You just have to figure out what platform is good for you.
Yeah. Now, Michael, are you in one of those yoga pictures?
I'm not. We've already spoken about the dad bod version of. No, I don't really have a
dad bod yoga. Yeah, you don't look like you do.
I don't, but I'm working on it. So
All right.
I made myself my favorite birthday cake is like the super cheap, $1.50 yellow cake with chocolate frosting.
Yeah.
Like you make in the grocery store.
Yeah.
I made a birthday cake in October, so I made myself one like a week ago, and I've almost killed it. There's this much left, so I'm really aggressively working on dad bod.
Awesome.
So my next podcast will be about man boobs, which I think will be effective because I think there's a lot of audience.
All right.
World.
Well,
how to monetize man boobs. Is my next course.
How to monetize man boobs.
Yeah,
all right. Well, we'll everyone be on the lookout. I know, anxiously awaiting.
You're welcome.
So I just want to go back to patience because I think it's really important. Patience, and then kind of like patience and failing, kind of like maybe kind of the same kind of thing, because I want to talk about how long should people, like, what advice do you share when people say, how long is this going to take?
Yeah, it's a toughie.
So,
I'm 2 hours away from Hollywood, and in Hollywood, every season, somebody works really hard and spends a lot of their own money to create a pilot, which is a TV show that hasn't been picked up yet. And it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, typically, at least. So of the maybe 200 that get made, they take the network looks at 40 of them. And of the 40, maybe they pick up 20. And of the 20, a few get on air. And of the few that get on air, 1 or 2 become shows that stick around. So out of, multiple hundreds of shows, 1 or 2 work. Now, I've done a lot of things in my career. Some have been marginally successful. The SoloPreneur Hour was an instant success. And you could just see it. You go, okay, that's how it's supposed to look. That's how it's supposed to feel. All of a sudden, we're a week in and there's 1,000 listens a day. And all of a sudden it's 2,000. It's 3,000. I'm like, all right, so this is what it's supposed to be like. When you see that kind of growth, you go, great. Now, most people don't see that kind of thing. And I've seen the opposite of that 100 times between when I started and then when I launched that particular show. If that happens with this beginner audiophile show, where after 5 months, I've still got 23 listens a day, I go, it didn't work. I still enjoyed it because I did something that I really loved and I wanted to do. But if it gets that far and nothing has really happened, I go, all right, it's not going to happen. We've exercised enough ideas, and I'm getting like that with. I have another project, and I'm kind of like, this thing maybe is the wrong format, wrong medium for this audience. That I will have given a year, So I think that you want to give it enough time to see some growth. My buddy John says, with a podcast, you want to see 10% growth a month. I don't know if that's a metric that can stand. Certainly at the beginning, you want to grow and grow and grow and grow. But, I don't think there's a set number. It's, I've got a buddy, Dr. Mark Costas, who has a show called Six Figure Side Gig and another one called Dentalpreneur. He's a dentist that's done amazing entrepreneurial things within the show. He doesn't have crazy numbers on the show, on the podcast, but he's made like $100,000 with the show because out of this small group of listeners are people that have invested in his mastermind group. And his mastermind group is like $17,000 for the year and a couple $100 a month. And so you need to decide, first of all, what measures success for you and what it looks like. Sometimes I'm writing a book called Unemployable, and that's why I made this hat for myself. And that thing might sell 5 copies, and I have no idea. But what I think it will do is open a lot of speaking doors and a lot of doors where, I could potentially be on television, morning TV talking about what it's like to be unemployable. So I think there's going to be a lot of doors that will open. And you kind of look at that as a loss leader. So what's your ultimate goal? In 2017, I want to speak a lot. I want to be on stages and I want to MC events and do things like that. What gets me there could be writing this book. It could be the success of the podcast. It could be being on other people's shows or whatever. So I'm going to keep throwing, lines out, and hopefully one of those lines will tug and there'll be a fish at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So they won't all be successful, but the consistent thing will be me continuing to look at the industry, decide where I want to be, and then figure out what steps I need to do to get there. So there's not really a fail as much as a that didn't work. It's like, all right, maybe the timing was wrong, maybe the medium was wrong. Let's try something else.
Yeah.
Kind of a runaround answer, but.
And kind of when I mentioned failure, I was almost really, it's more around not being afraid to fail. When I'm listening to you talk, you try all these different things. You tried this route, you tried that route, you try to meet different people. There's all these new opportunities that you can kind of try to create for yourself so that you figure out which path to take, what works, what doesn't. And I think a lot of people are really scared to do that because you don't want to people want to go into something knowing it's going to work instead of, hey, this might not work. And that's totally cool and totally okay, because had you not done this one thing, you wouldn't have met this one person or had this other opportunity present itself.
That's right. Well, and the thing, I think the shift is not for them to think, oh, this might not work. It's to go, oh, this probably won't work. It's likely that it won't work. If it works, then you found a little cool, the windows crossed and you managed to sneak through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but because it's got to be a weird little combination of your skill set, your application of the skill set, the timing of the industry, what medium you chose, and then how well you execute the thing you tried to do. I'm a drummer. So if I flipped my camera around, you'd see that it's right in front of this drum set. And one of the cool advantages I think that musicians have is that we're used to sucking all the time, even if we're good. Even if we're really good at doing something. I went to a drum camp earlier in the year with a guy I've had on my show multiple times, this guy Mike Johnson, phenomenal entrepreneur. He'd be great for this show, actually. And I was pretty proud of, I was trying 3 years to get into this drum camp. And I went into the intermediate camp, and it became apparent that I was probably in the wrong camp. I probably should have been in the next one up, whatever, there was an intermediate and advanced. I thought, man, if I go to advanced, I'm probably going to get schooled. I don't know where I am in his grand scheme of things. So it turned out that I was good enough to be in the advanced camp. So he would do things. He was like, hey, can you play this? And I'd be like, yeah. And I'd play it. And he would go, all right, now keep a quarter note pulse with your left foot while you're playing it. And all of a sudden, it went to hell in a handbasket. I was just awful at it. I'm like, and now I can't do it at all anymore.
Oh my gosh.
We're used to being really bad at something and then having to go, especially as a drummer, I've got 4 limbs doing different things. And I'm trying to do something I see on YouTube, right? Some lesson the guy has. I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to do this. And I try to do it. I'm like, wow, that is laughable how awful it is. And if somebody was in front of me and said, play something, I could play something, they'd be like, oh, wow, that's pretty good. You're a pretty good drummer. But it only takes one little tweak for me to be completely and utterly beginner at something again. So it's accepting that, all right, this is not going to go well, I'm sure. I'm going to start this podcast. I'm probably not going to be great at it at the beginning. Tim Ferriss is a great example of that. He was terrible at podcasting at the beginning of his podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And his audio quality sucked. So not only was he bad at it, but the audio was really bad as well. Any normal podcaster, like any anonymous, unknown person, the show would have gone nowhere. But because he had a little leverage, he had a huge audience that came with him, we were there enough for him to graduate and get better at it. Now he's really, and he got recommendations, he got the right gear, he got better at interviewing, he did all the things right over the course of the last couple of years. And that's just how it happened. That's just how it goes in this industry is man, we're going to fire and we're going to adjust. We're going to fire and we're going to adjust. We're going to figure that out. And everyone else is waiting for somebody to go first. So when you're at the bar and you want to go have a conversation, or the dance floor is empty, or you want to be the one that says, hey, I have a question for Q&A, be the one that raises your hand first, because everyone else is waiting for you to do that.
I love that. That's awesome. All right. I feel like I could talk to you forever, so I'll let you go in just a second. But before,
the chemistry is palpable.
it's palpable. It's amazing. No, I was listening to one of your podcasts, and I loved what you said, because you were reading. Somebody had sent an email to you, and it said, I'm looking at your course, and I'm also looking at this tool, and he had like 3 different things, and your answer was, stop getting ready.
Yeah, I said there's a Seinfeld reference that I heard. Seinfeld, by the way, if you guys don't watch comedians in cars getting coffee, if you're an entrepreneur, watch that show, because laced within the comedy narrative and stuff, and Jerry Seinfeld in general is a baller entrepreneur. He just thinks like we do. And I remember, I'll find my way back to what you asked, but I remember, I think he was talking to Chris Rock, and he was talking about going to walking by a skate park, a skateboard skate park, and watching this kid fall. Like, he kept trying this one trick, and he kept crashing on it, and kept falling, and Seinfeld walked away, and he said, that kid's going to be all right. And that's what this is as entrepreneurs, because finally, the kid nailed it.
Yeah.
He finally got it, and that's what it takes. So this guy walked up to Jerry, and he said, I'm thinking about becoming a screenwriter. And Jerry said, you're never going to make it, because screenwriters write. They don't care what anybody else thinks. I don't care if anybody listens to this show. I'm going to do it. Like, I'm a podcaster, so I'm going to podcast. If you're a writer, you better be writing. If you like to be on video, your YouTube channel better be full of you on video. It's not like, oh, I'm thinking of launching this thing, or like, you got to just go. You got to launch the thing and go. So,
yes. Oh, I love that.
That's the truth.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I listen to I've listened to Mark Maron and a lot of other people who interview comedians. I find comedians and actors are interesting, because they kind of have this sense of that same thing. You have to keep going. You have to keep trying. You have to get a lot of doors shut in your face. And so I'm also fascinated by the journey of those people, because just like with entrepreneurship, these people, it's almost like they're going up on stage, and they're doing the open mic nights, or they're just going audition after audition, and then they meet, like I was something like the Sandberg guy that was on SNL. Yeah. He met Jimmy Fallon, and Jimmy Fallon really liked him, so then he told Lorne Michaels, hey, you should watch this guy. So it was like, yeah, so it's that constant reaching out to people, and kind of like how we started this whole interview. So I just feel like you just have to do and go and just keep on pushing, and you just never know what's going to happen, how it's going to work or not work. And I love that.
Two things on that. Number one, there is no more one-to-one ratio to entrepreneurship than stand-up comedy. So when you think about this, they see something funny in the world. So there's a premise, right? And they've got this idea that something in there is funny. So then they start finding within that premise, well, what's funny about that, right? And they create content based on that thing. And then they do tons of trial and error. And the trial and error is them on stage trying to figure out the right combination of words and which words they can remove. First, they try to see if there's going to be a hit, meaning, will there be a laugh? Is there a laugh in here somewhere? They go, all right, I got to find the laugh. And so they find whatever angle works for them, just like we do as entrepreneurs. First, we have this idea, I want to do a podcast, and then what's the angle of the podcast? Okay, let's figure out the angle. And we figure out what the market is. So now these guys are on stage, and they're working on the different angles until someone goes, ooh, that's the thing that's funny. All right, now that I know that's funny, I'm going to continue to refine. So they're going to remove words until it doesn't work anymore. And then they're going to put those words back in the right order. Once that's done, and by the way, that could take 6 months of saying the same joke hundreds of times to hundreds of people until they know that that's a guaranteed laugh.
Yeah.
Like, I know when I used to talk about when I was doing social media training, and I would talk about that when you got friend requests, you should take them. If you're a solopreneur and they're not clearly fake, you should accept them. And I would always say, people are innocent until proven creepy. And that always it always gets a laugh.
I love that.
It always gets a laugh. And I know that because I've said it now 300 times in front of 300 audiences.
Right.
And now I've got it dialed. So I know that one-to-one that will work every single time. So this process of entrepreneurship is taking all of those ideas we have and continuing to refine them until we get that nice little, like, oh yeah, that thing's going to work every single time. Now I know this works. So you mentioned something, though, that's super important that we haven't completely dug into, which is relationships. And there's no bigger, more important skill set you can have as a solopreneur than to learn to build relationships, because that's where all of the opportunities come in this space. Now, I wouldn't be on this show if you hadn't reached out to me. You know what I mean? Like, we wouldn't have had this if that hadn't happened. So I've gone to conference after conference after conference and seen people literally blow it in front of me with an influencer or a speaker at the event, or just not know how to interact with people.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people where I'm speaking to someone at a bar and somebody walks up behind us, maybe one of the speakers of the event, and they've got their back turned to them, and they don't shift to include them in the conversation because they don't know. They just don't know body language. They don't know rapport building techniques, or maybe they're shy and they don't know how to get through a conversation with someone. You know, they don't know how to introduce their friends. Like, if I was introducing you, I wouldn't just be like, to someone who, you know, maybe one of my buddies that was speaking or something, I wouldn't be like, hey, this is Kate. You know, I would provide context, just like we try to do on a podcast, right? So after seeing years of that, I was like, I've got to fix that. So I created, and this isn't just like a blatant plug, but I created a free course called Conferencetopia that helps people to do that. Like, I want people to build their, because I can look back on this show and trace it literally back to like one person. Almost all the success that I've had in years, really, I could probably trace back to Pat Flynn in 2010.
Oh, wow.
Right? I'm 7 years in for an email that happened with Pat Flynn. And it's too long of a story to get into, but from that branched into a couple people that branched into a couple people that branched into a couple people. And now I have dear friends that are doing like crazy things in the industry that when I have a thing, which I do now, and I say I need a favor, I've got hundreds of thousands of people that I can reach out to. But that was like 7 years of relationship building.
Yeah.
And now 3 years of having all of them on my show and putting out tons of free content and promoting their stuff left and right, so that I can now go, hey, can I call in this favor? Which is uncomfortable for me because I'm way more of I like it the other way, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard for me to receive in that way or even ask. It's like it's complicated for me to even like, hey, would it be okay if I did this? You know, but that's where I've got to get over. That's my mental
totally, because that's a gift. Like, that's a gift that somebody wants to give to you because you've been so good to all these people. Look at it like, oh, finally, I can do this for Michael. He's done so much for me.
Right. Versus me going, I'm sorry to put you out.
Yeah.
You know.
For sure.
So, yeah. So that's what everybody will always consistently struggle with something.
Yeah.
There's always something that no matter where you are on the timeline, there's always going to be something like that that's your mental block. I've been sitting on this course that I think is the best course I've ever seen. And I've been sitting on it for months, you know? It's like, it's just what we all go through. So you're amongst your people.
I know. Hey, listen, I'm a big Tony Robbins fan and just mindset and everything. It's a constant every day. Just have to keep on doing it.
That's right.
So awesome. Well, Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. This was you just shared so much great information. And for anybody that's watching, if you don't want to get started now, I don't know what to tell you. Whatever.
Get a job somewhere then.
Right? And
by the way, you can also, if you're a millennial and you're just starting off, go get a job.
Yeah.
Like, it's totally fine. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm Elon Musk. Like, you can get a job, get a sales gig,
yeah,
whatever you like to do. It's really nice to have. I was a web print and a designer and branding guy for 15 years before I did any of this stuff, which has obviously immensely helped me in this world that we're in right now. But there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing like it's not a failure if you have to go and bolster up your foundation before you launch a thing.
Yeah.
It's okay.
In fact,
Perfectly okay.
it's so much better because then you don't have to be so stressed. You have your income and you get to do the thing, and and you're so much more authentic, and it really turns into something that you're proud of instead of I have to make this work because I have to start generating revenue.
Well, and I have a good friend as well that is here in the San Diego area. You can't trip without hitting like a yoga, nutrition, health coach. Everybody is. You know, like mindset, you know,
Yeah.
girl power, all that stuff is just they're everywhere. And so I have a friend that, you know, is a trained nutritionist and a yoga teacher, and she's like, I really want to open a cool coffee shop that has really healthy items and, you know, bulletproof coffee and things like that, but doesn't know anything. She didn't know anything about coffee shops. So she went to work for a coffee shop. Hey, go figure. Like,
Genius.
what are the odds of someone going, oh, and now she's an employee from a coffee shop, so she can absorb all that information and then apply it to the thing. She just didn't have that skill yet. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, glory be for you doing something that makes tons of sense in that world, you know?
I love it.
So if you want to be a good salesperson and go sell something.
Totally.
Hey, go figure. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Hold on, I'll just do this little mic drop.
Drop the mic
Drop.
and done.
Yeah.
All right, so Michael, you are awesome. I keep saying it, but it's true. Everyone now knows it. Can you tell everyone where they can find you, how to connect with you?
No.
So lame.
Just kidding. Yeah, I can. So I was on the cover of Time magazine last week, so you can pick up the latest issue. No, I have a website. No one can spell preneur, so you can just go to solohour.com, and that's the same for all my social medias.
Okay.
I'm so close to like breaking 15K on Instagram, so if you guys could follow me on Instagram at solohour. And then
Done.
Conferencetopia is the free course on learning to build better relationships, even if you're shy, and that's conferencetopia.com. And then my course, The Art of the Interview, is artoftheinterview.co. Artoftheinterview.co. Whoever has that M is in trouble. But artoftheinterview.co, and that if you are if you're a podcaster and you want to be a better interviewer, and then even a better conversationalist in real world, that is what that course will do for you.
I love it.
And that's my pitch fest.
Awesome.
Beginner audiophile on Instagram.
Yeah, check it out.
I only have 400 followers right now, so.
So go there.
Yeah, if you want to hear your music for reals.
For reals. Michael, thank you so much. I so appreciate it. It's been so much fun talking to you. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Me too. It's been a hoot.
It's been a hoot. All right. See you guys next time.